Hello again, and welcome to another GCSE Computer Science theory lesson. This video is going to be on Unit 2 and give you some tips on writing pseudocode. So I'm going to jump straight into giving you an example of an exam question. And if you're feeling brave enough, I want you to read this question, pause the video and give it a go for yourselves. But if you're not feeling brave enough, then carry on watching and I'm going to talk you through the answer. Okay, so to talk you through the answer to this question, first of all, it is important to stay calm when you're given a question like this in the exam. Now, I've slimmed down this question a fair bit, but just be aware, in the exam paper, it takes them twice as long to word the same thing. They'll use twice the word count to ask the same question. So just try and remain calm, even if the question seems quite complex at first. Second of all, they give you way more space than is necessary for these questions. So when they give you 2 pages of A4 to write some pseudocode, by no means do you have to use the whole lot. Another tip I would recommend is writing your answer on scrap paper first and then writing it in neatly into the answer booklet. Okay, so let's make a start. First of all, we're going to output a message to the user. Okay, and now we're going to allow the user to respond to that message. So the user's input is going to be stored inside a variable called time. Unfortunately for us, in the question, it's pretty much given us all of the if statements that we need in written English. And it's just a case of manually converting these. So we're going to say if time, so in the case of 13, or any time that's above 12, so if time is more than 12, then we're going to output time followed by PM. So you will lose marks for not putting in quotation marks. You do need to make sure you put them in. And I just want you to pause this video for a second and just have a think about what is the mistake that I've made here. What have I done wrong? Okay, the mistake that I've made is that I've not minused 12 from time. So if I were to type in 13, it should display 1 PM, but at the moment it will only display 13 PM, which is no good. So we should just minus 12 from it like that. Okay, the next task is if the user enters in 2, it should display 2 AM. So if the time is less than midday, then we're going to output time followed by AM. Next, we're going to do the code for midday and midnight. So if time is equal to 12, then output midday. And if 12 is equal to 0, then output midnight. I just want you to pause this video and have a think about how many marks you would give this out of 9. Okay, so if I was marking this, I would probably only give this about 6 out of 9. The reason for that is because there is a small mistake in the code and it is also inefficient. So let me tell you about the mistake first of all. I want you to run through this code. Imagine the user has entered in 0. Well, it should output midnight. But what happens is, because 0 is less than 12, we're going to be outputting 0 AM, which is no good. Now, we could move these around if we wanted to. But the problem still persists. We're just going to be outputting midnight followed by 0 AM. That is still no good. So there is a way around this. There is a way we can fix this and make the code more efficient at the same time, boosting us up to 9 out of 9 marks. We switch these out for else ifs. And there you have it. We now have an answer that is worthy of 9 marks out of 9. Now, some of you are probably thinking, what about user validation? How do you stop the user entering in something weird like ham sandwiches? We don't have to worry about that. The question doesn't make any reference to appropriate user validation. If you really wanted to, you could put in some little validation here, like and time is less than 25, to stop users typing in something greater than 24 hours. You could put that in there. You wouldn't lose any marks for it, but you're not going to gain any marks for it either because the question doesn't say anything about user validation. And before we end this video, I just want to talk to you about some good practice when you're writing your pseudocode. As I said before, do it on scrap paper first, so your code is easy to read. If the examiner can't read it, they can't mark it. Make sure you indent your code, like I've done. It does make your code much easier to read. And for me, I personally think it's good practice to put any programming terms in uppercase. So for example, things like if statements and then and end if, put those in uppercase. And anything like variables in lowercase. And it makes it obvious which is which. It just makes it a little bit more easier to read. And for those using Python out there, still put in those end ifs. Even if you're a Python programmer, you know, the exam board still requires it, and most languages, I think every language apart from Python, uses end statements. So you still need to put those into pseudocode for the purposes of this GCSE anyway.